Have you ever found yourself just stuck in that loop? You know, that persistent, really bone-deep fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to touch?
Hmm.
Or maybe those weird, like, migratory joint pains. One day it's your knee, the next your shoulder. Maybe even a headache and you just don't know why.
That sounds familiar for a lot of people.
And then there's that feeling of apathy, that sort of mental fog where starting anything or even finishing something simple feels like a huge effort.
Right.
Plus, maybe those strange food cravings, the ones usually followed by feeling bloated and uncomfortable, and you just feel like you can't quite control the urge for, comfort food.
Absolutely. Those patterns are quite common.
So what if? What if all these things, which seem totally unrelated, were actually pointing to one single kind of hidden signal in your body, something much deeper than just one number on a lab test?
That's a great question.
Today we're doing a deep dive into elevated ferritin. We want to figure out what it actually is, why it matters so much, and how it can be this, like, secret alarm bell for much bigger things going on inside you.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just about reading a blood test result. It's really about learning to understand your body's own language.
Exactly. And when you see that high ferritin level on your report, maybe 300, 400, even 500 nanograms per milliliter, it often signals way more than you might think at first glance.
Okay.
Crucially, it's pointing towards inflammation. Inflammation that might not be obvious, no visible swelling maybe, but your body is definitely dealing with it.
Right.
A lot of people are told, oh, it's linked to your fatigue, but they rarely get the full story of why it's happening, or, importantly, the potential long-term consequences for their health.
Okay, right. Let's try and unpack that then. Our sources use a pretty good analogy to explain iron and ferritin, thinking about it like, money.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So you've got your serum iron, or ferritin. That's the iron floating around in your blood, ready to use, like cash in your wallet, right, for immediate spending.
Yep, readily available energy currency.
Then there's transferrin. These are like the wagons or maybe armored trucks that carry the iron around safely. And knowing how saturated they are tells us how efficiently that iron is being moved.
Correct, the transport system.
And finally, ferritin. That's the stored iron, the deposits, like money tucked away securely in your bank account, your savings.
Your reserves, exactly.
Now, usually when we talk iron problems, people think of iron deficiency anemia. That's low ferritin stores, low hemoglobin. You feel totally drained, collapsed, as the source puts it.
Running on empty.
But this deep dive is about the flip side, hyperferritinemia. And this is where it gets really interesting, because you might have low circulating iron, not much cash in the wallet, but really high ferritin deposits, loads in the bank.
It seems completely contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah, like being cash poor, but metabolically speaking, asset rich.
It absolutely does seem contradictory.
Yeah.
And that's precisely why understanding it is so vital. I mean, iron itself is fundamental, right? It's a crucial tool for so many bodily functions, carrying oxygen, making energy.
Yeah, basic stuff.
Basic, but complex. And its storage, how the body manages it, well, that's incredibly intricate and often just glossed over in a quick doctor's appointment.
So that leads to the big question.
Right. Why would the body have maybe not enough iron readily available, but at the same time be storing so much of it? What's going on there?
Exactly. What's the reason behind that? Why accumulate all these iron deposits if it's not even circulating properly for immediate needs?
Well, what's fascinating is that there isn't just one single answer. There are multiple factors, and genetics can play a surprisingly historical part.
Historical? How so?
Well, our sources mention this idea of, like, ancestral adaptations. Think about populations maybe generations ago who often lost blood, hunting, conflicts, or maybe just didn't have much access to heme iron, the type you get easily from red meat. Over time, their bodies might have actually developed genetic traits to absorb and hold on to iron really efficiently. It was a survival advantage back then.
Okay, that makes sense.
But now, fast forward to our modern world. With our, let's face it, often pro-inflammatory diets, environmental toxins, chronic stress, that old genetic advantage can kind of backfire.
So it works against us now.
In many cases, yes.
Yeah.
It creates this direct link between having that tendency to store iron and developing chronic low-grade inflammation throughout the body.
So high ferritin equals inflammation, pretty much?
So it's a very strong indicator, yes.
Yeah.
It's like a signal flare saying your body's dealing with an inflammatory load, even if you don't have, say, swollen joints or obvious signs. It's like this low simmering fire inside.
Wow.
But wait, there's another layer to this. It gets even more clever in a way.
Right.
When you see that combination, low circulating iron, the ferritin, but high stored ferritin, It can actually be your body's defense kicking in against an infection.
An infection, like a virus or a bacteria.
Exactly. Or even in some situations, against rogue cells, like early cancerous ones. The body intelligently pulls iron out of circulation and locks it away in storage.
Why would it do that?
Because many pathogens, especially bacteria, need iron to grow and multiply. They use it as fuel, essentially. So the body tries to starve them out to kind of asphyxiate these invaders by hiding their food source.
That's actually quite smart of the body.
It is. It's a strategic defense. But, and this is the crucial but, there's a downside to having all that iron locked away in storage.
Okay, what's the catch?
The catch is oxidative stress. Iron, especially when it's stored in large amounts, is chemically reactive. It tends to oxidize. Think of it literally like rust forming inside your system.
Rust. That sounds bad.
It is. This oxidation process generates a whole flood of damaging molecules from free radicals. This creates significant oxidative stress, which is like internal pollution, causing damage to cells and tissues all over the body.
So it's this really complex balance that the body tries to protect itself, but that protection mechanism can then cause its own problems. Now, a lot of people might hear this and think, oh, well, high ferritin runs in my family. My dad had it, my grandpa. It's just genetic. But it sounds like it's more than just the genes you inherit.
Oh, absolutely. Genetics might, let's say, load the gun, but lifestyle and environment pull the trigger.
Okay.
While having a genetic predisposition can make you more susceptible, it's rarely the whole story. Think of your genes as the hardware. But what we call our epigenetic ecosystem, that's the software.
Epigenetic ecosystem.
Yeah, it's basically how your environment, your diet, your stress levels, sleep, even your emotions can influence which genes get turned on or off. It doesn't change your DNA code, but it changes how that code is expressed.
Got it. So our choices really matter here.
Hugely. That's why things like a poor diet, lots of ultra-processed stuff, too much alcohol, smoking, chronic stress, the kind that keeps your cortisol high all the time, they're massive factors.
And cortisol drives inflammation too, right?
It absolutely does. And don't forget how we manage emotions. Our gut health, it's all interconnected in this intricate dance, influencing inflammation and iron storage.
It sounds like you need more than just the ferritin number then to see the whole picture.
Definitely. You need context.
Yep.
That's why looking at other blood markers is so important. Things like homocysteine that tells you about liver methylation, which is crucial for detoxification and managing inflammation.
Okay, homocysteine. What else?
Then there's the ESR, or erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Basically how fast your red blood cells fall in a tube. Faster usually means more general inflammation.
Right.
And probably the most important one alongside ferritin is ultrasensitive C-reactive protein, or HSCRP. It's a really sensitive marker for that low-grade systemic inflammation we've been talking about.
HSCRP. Got it.
Yeah. Looking at all these together helps paint a much clearer picture of why the ferritin is high, not just that it is high.
Okay, so the body's storing this iron, potentially as a defense, but the storage itself causes this internal pollution, this oxidative stress. Where does that damage tend to show up first? Which parts of the body are most vulnerable?
Good question. The liver often bears the brunt initially. It's the main hub for iron metabolism, so it gets overloaded first.
And what happens to the liver then?
Over time, that excess iron can cause damage leading to fibrosis, basically scarring and thickening of the tissue. And if that's not addressed, in severe cases, it could progress to cirrhosis, where the liver is so scarred it just can't function properly anymore.
Wow, okay, so the liver is primary. Where else?
The impact doesn't stop there. The pancreas can also be affected, specifically the cells that produce insulin and control blood sugar, the beta pancreatic cells.
Ah, so this could link to diabetes.
Potentially, yes. Iron overload there can contribute to insulin resistance and definitely increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
Okay. Liver, pancreas, anywhere else.
The heart. Excess iron can actually build up in the heart muscle itself. Yeah. And that can contribute to problems like high blood pressure, hypertension, irregular heartbeats, arrhythmias, or even really fast heart rates, which we call tachycardias.
And if the ferritin issue isn't dealt with,
then treatments for those heart conditions might not work as well as they should because you're not addressing the underlying iron overload problem.
that makes sense.
And there's a really important point about misdiagnosis that comes up in the sources.
What's that?
That collection of symptoms we started with, the extreme fatigue, the sleep problems, the energy loss, those weird migratory pains, especially in women, they often get lumped together and diagnosed as something like fibromyalgia.
Right, I've heard that connection made.
But sometimes the actual root cause isn't fibromyalgia at all. It might be the elevated ferritin stemming from that poor management of our epigenetic ecosystem, as we called it. It's so important to look deeper than just the surface symptoms.
That could be a huge piece of the puzzle for someone struggling with those issues. So, okay, this leads us to the crucial part. What can we actually do about it? How do we lower these iron deposits safely?
Right, the what next? And here's a really critical biological point to understand first. The human body doesn't really have a built-in efficient way to get rid of excess iron.
It doesn't.
Not actively, no. Its main control mechanism is limiting how much iron you absorb from your food in the first place. It's good at holding on to iron, not so good at excreting it when there's too much.
Okay, so that explains why it builds up.
Exactly. And this leads to a common misunderstanding about diet.
Like, just stop eating red meat.
Yeah, or avoiding vitamin C because it helps absorption. People hear high iron and think, I must cut out all iron sources. But that's often too simplistic and honestly kind of silly if it's done without understanding the why.
Why silly?
Because you risk malnutrition, cutting out important foods. And more importantly, it completely misses the underlying point. The real issue, usually, isn't the iron you're eating today. It's the chronic, low-grade inflammation that's causing your body to store it improperly.
So fixing the inflammation is key, not just avoiding iron.
That's the fundamental target, yes. Just cutting iron intake without knowing why your ferritin is high isn't a real solution.
Okay. So the foundation then has to be lifestyle changes to tackle that inflammation.
Absolutely. That's step one. Really focusing on reducing ultra-processed foods, cutting back significantly on alcohol, quitting smoking if you do, and finding effective ways to manage chronic stress.
Getting that cortisol down.
Precisely. And alongside that, really nurturing your emotional health and making sure your digestive system is working well. It's all part of reducing that inflammatory burden.
Makes sense. So once you're working on that foundation, are there more direct ways to lower the stored iron?
Yes, there is one very effective and well-established therapeutic method: blood donation.
Just donating blood.
Yes, also called phlebotomy or therapeutic bleeding. It's a direct way to remove iron from the body because iron is stored in your red blood cells.
How much does it help?
It can make a big difference quite quickly. The sources give an example. Someone with a ferritin level of, say, 500 ng-milli might see it drop to 350 or even lower after just one donation. It varies, of course.
Wow. And do people feel better afterwards?
Very often, yes. The immediate benefits patients report can be quite significant. Less of that deep fatigue, clearing of that mental fog or clogging feeling, more mental clarity, sometimes even sharper vision. Remember we talked about oxidative stress? That can cause blurry vision or cognitive issues for some people with high ferritin, so removing some iron can alleviate that pressure.
That sounds incredibly impactful and pretty straightforward.
It can be, for the right person under medical guidance.
Now, you also hinted at some temporary tools, something about tea.
Ah, yes. Black and green teas contain compounds called tannins.
Cannons, okay.
If you drink these teas after a meal, the tannins can actually bind to some of the non-heme iron, the iron from plant sources, in that meal, slightly reducing how much gets absorbed.
So it limits absorption a bit.
A bit, yes. But, and this is really important, but it's just a containment strategy. It's not a cure.
Right.
It doesn't fix the underlying reason why your ferritin is high. So it's not something to rely on long-term, and definitely not without understanding the root cause. It's like patching a leaky pipe instead of fixing the break.
Got it. A minor tool, not the main solution.
Exactly. And this brings me to probably the most critical warning I need to give.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do not try to aggressively lower your iron stores without fully understanding the reason your ferritin is high in the first place.
Why is that so crucial?
Because remember how high ferritin can be a defense mechanism. If it's elevated because your body is fighting an infection or dealing with pathogens, or even an early cancer, then just forcing the ferritin down without treating that underlying issue could be really counterproductive. You might actually remove the body's defense shield and create a kind of metabolic imbalance that could make the root problem worse.
Whoa, okay. That's serious.
It is. Think of ferritin as that thermometer of inflammation, like we said. It's also an indicator of energy management and maybe hidden battles. You absolutely need a healthcare professional to look at the whole picture, your labs, your symptoms, your history, to figure out the why before deciding on the what.
That's such a crucial perspective. This whole deep dive really hammers home that ferritin isn't just some random number on a page.
Not at all.
It's this vital sign, this thermometer telling you about inflammation, about how your body's managing energy, maybe fighting something off. It's a signal to look much, much deeper.
Precisely. So the takeaway for you listening is maybe to reflect on your own lifestyle, your health history. Think about your epigenetic ecosystem, that whole mix of genes, diet, stress, environment, habits. How might your unique mix be playing into your body's iron story? It's not just about chasing a number down. It's about really listening to your body, understanding its language, the symptoms, the lab results, and using that understanding to support its balance. It's truly about being well-informed and proactive about your own health journey.